Earlier this year, I shared the story of Abdol Hossein Sardari, an Iranian diplomat who used his wit, legal mind, and position to save the lives of Iranian and non-Iranian Jewish families in occupied Paris during the Holocaust. What I didn't know at the time was that a documentary about his life was already made. It's called Sardari's Enigma by filmmaker Mahdieh Zardiny, a British Iranian woman who spent years tracking down documents, witnesses, survivors, in order to tell a story that history almost had forgotten. In April, I attended a screening of the documentary in Beverly Hills, California, and captured the Q&A that followed. This is that conversation.
In honor of our warriors in Iran who just sacrificed their lives just for freedom in Iran, I would love just to please rise and just observe 1 minute silence, and then we can carry on. Thank you.
I have to admit, I liked it more than the last three. I really did. I think the reason is that there was so much detail, so many layers, that one cannot even fully appreciate in one viewing. You took a story and gave it so much life with your choice of scenery, footage. If Sardari liked children, you show a footage of children playing. It's not his children, but we see children playing. The parties, people partying, a good time in France of that time, and so on. Even the nature, the symmetry that you start with and you end with. When we talk about him dying alone, you show the handle of a wooden bench that's been sitting there in facing weather for years. It's really quite tasteful and quite impressive. How long did you take to put all this together? How long was this journey?
Because pre-production took a lot. There were loads of research work you've seen in the film. Document, finding people, relatives of Sardari, people who were just stayed with him, their family, convincing them to talk to me about about what happened, or I don't know, asking them also to giving me some documents. Plus, it was not easy to finding documents that you've seen in the archive. It was in Washington, D.C. It was so hard to finding the relative documents. And at the same time, the other one, the archive footage, you've seen that. It's in high quality HD, and it was so hard to convince people, collaborate with me, to giving me this archive. So it took years, it was like 5-6 years just to get this job done.
The letters that the Germans wrote, where do you find such documents 50, 60, 70 years later? You actually had to go to libraries, or tell us where you found them.
In the letter, all the Germans and everything from the National Archive in Washington, D.C., and all the things everything is from National Archive in Washington, D.C. But there is some other documents from France, Paris. It just is some other museum in Paris. There was some from Switzerland, Swiss archive, but mostly from Washington, D.C.
Not Germany?
No, there is no. I researched some, but there was nothing in there. Everything about World War II mostly is being archived in Washington, D.C. The National Archive is a very big archive. It's very hard to find it.
Your cinematography was excellent in every way, even the natural parts of you in a car or a train. Or was it one person who shot the whole film for you, or did you use different people in different countries? In other words, that one person traveled with you everywhere?
Because of the limited budget we had, it was so limited also production people we just used. Two people were with me, one sound and one camera in USA. And also for Europe part, I had only one person, one French guy who helped me at anywhere, and he was excellent, honestly. Whatever you've seen from my photography Europe side, it's been done with him. And also maybe you know Kuhyar Kalari, he's the son of Mahmoud Kalari. They are very prominent cinematographer in Iran, and they are so good, and honestly I was blessed to having them with me.
Well, you said limited budget, but this does not look like a low budget documentary. It looks like a lot of money was spent on it because it was so well done. Then you had all these voices. You chose them so well. The Germans were German and the others were not, and so on and so forth. Of course, professionals, it was obvious. How many people did you use the voices of in the process?
The reason that I chose voice acting, because always whatever I don't like it, I don't use it in my product. Sometimes when I see just monotone is documentary that only using one narration, always it just gives me just tiring that, oh, how much is tiring. So I thought to myself, it's better just to use other just like method to actually engage audience more, to be more engaging and touching for audience, and also storyline. So for that reason, I just tried to find some voice actors in London. And again, because of the budget, I had to just make sure that I'm not over budget, just like in the line. So I found 4 people and I talked with them. I've received many voices. I chose these 4. And I said to one of them, look, you have to act 3 voices for me.
No way.
2 German and 1 French.
You noticed that there was a character in the old black and white footage that we saw. It was Mr. Sardari walking across the street, Mr. Sardari smoking a cigarette. Did everyone notice that he was in the movie at times, moving, walking, this and that?
Yes.
And can I tell them? You told me. She is so detail-oriented. She found footage of someone who looked like Sardari, and she used it. And it gave us such a great impression of this man, because in real life, you would have had that footage if somebody followed him with a camera. He would be the cute short guy with the hat and the glasses and the excellent suit walking across the street. And that's how far you went with your details, and really that is something special. It took me 3 screenings to ask the question, and that was very touching. I'm sure they want to know how many people work together to make such a project come to a screening.
For production, as I said, it was just 3 of us in US, United States, and just 2 of us in Europe for just filming, for shooting. But for post-production, thanks God, I had a good team. I just talked, and then we tried to honestly manage money-wise to be able to work professionally with a professional editor, and also sound designer, and also the color correction. Everything has been done because that was honestly important for just having just in a cinema. So for post-production, we had a good team. But for production, as I said, just we have 3. So I'm not sure exactly how many, but there were also some, whatever you've seen in the credit, there were also some sponsors like Hamid Sabib, Iranian Jewish Center, Iran Heritage Foundation, Iraj Elghanian, Farzad Zahab, all were actually the team that we worked together in London, and then we tried just to manage it money-wise.
You also did some really interesting graphics. I loved how in a photograph, one image would come forward and the color would change, and that was like very high tech and very modern. That was not your editor. You had a graphic artist as well, and that was a Persian person or someone in Europe? Europe. Well, overall, fantastic. I mean, look at the crowd here, and this is your 4th screening in Los Angeles, right? I think we can open it now to questions from the audience. I'm sure there's 100 questions here.
How do you find it out to pursue such a thing?
It was at a time I was recording some Holocaust survivors, just like making documentary for my project in university. I was at the time working in a TV channel, and one of my coworkers one day asked me, so do you know Sardari? And I said, no, I have no idea who is he. And then it was the reason that I just go and just started researching to see who is he. But the reason that I put loads of years was because when I went to Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and I've seen a massive list, and his name was not in there. That was just persuaded that his name should be in there because he's done already a great job. And that was the main reason for me to follow up on it.
I wanted to know who were the man and the woman, the executors. Who was Kevin, the person on the wheel that was the beneficiary?
Kaveh is actually the Sardari was his father's uncle, and that was his beneficial, the main actual next of kin. And the man and woman, as I've just mentioned in the film, I cannot raise honestly their name, but we found them. I actually sent emails and everything, trying to get the silver, right, or getting any photographer from him. But they blackmailed me and they said I cannot go further, otherwise they go to police, and that was the place I was just stopped. I couldn't go further.
Were the executors relatives of Kaveh?
No.
Were they Persian?
No, they were not Persian.
That's fine.
They were British. They were a couple. They were a British couple. They were not, and they were lawyers. They know what they do.
And we still don't know how they found him or what the connection.
They were neighbor. They were neighbor. And when revolution of Iran happened, they just like misused Sardari in order just to take his all his fund. Yeah.
So that was theft. So the police could have been involved.
Yeah, but there were a family or some other people should go. I, as a filmmaker, cannot go further.
What we experienced in Mr. Sardari, and I want you to know that I was left humbled because it made me realize that you can't really judge anyone by one thing. He was so many different things, and he lived so well, and he died so poorly. And the net result for me was humility. Thank you.
Given the situation that we're in right now in the world, what do you think people can learn from Sardari and this movie and what you've brought to life in our Iranian community specifically?
To me, the message of the movie is unity. It means that no matter what religion we have, no matter who we are, no matter what nationality we have, we all are human, and we can just look at each other as human. And then anytime we need help, we can each other help. It doesn't matter where we come from and what religion. That's the thing that Sardari had done. That's the thing that is my belief, and that's the message of the film and myself as a filmmaker. You just think that look, we are all human. Don't be fooled by your religion, by your nationality, by your gender, by your race, by your anything.
Yeah, and you have that quote from Cyrus the Great at the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sardari never asked for recognition. He never shared his story, and for decades, the world didn't either. But Mahdieh did. And in some small way, we are as well. If this story moved you, please share it. Because the most important thing we can do for people like Sardari is make sure they are not forgotten. I'm Neloo, and this is Wonder.